Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
Well, we missed a show last week. Sorry about that to our audience. But it seems we also hurt the Leafs as well by doing that, because since our last episode, the Leafs have the one shootout win versus Utah and 5 losses, including last night versus the Sens that we're recording this on the Sunday. So it hasn't been good since our last show. So we'll see what happens. But first of all, a quick reminder that our show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Woo! If you're a big basketball fan, check out BetOnline. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion.
With the largest selection of odds on everything from the NHL to college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, every win. Visit the website today, betonline.ag, and make the game day action count just a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know needs some support or advice, you can reach out to Connex Ontario or an organization near you.
Yeah, so I just want to make a quick comment, something that made me laugh today, because there seems to be a lot of drama with Leafs Nation lately. Just from our Facebook, I'm just going to pull it up here. I should have been prepared, but I'm getting there. So I just want to... Leafs Nation is going over the top, I guess, right now because of these losses, and... This I found funny. It's from Ron Ashley, one of our top fans on Facebook, and he says it's too much watching the opponents making plays instead of challenging the players who are making the plays. He had to laugh when Nylander said, "We have to grind more." The only grinding he does is his coffee in the morning. I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny, a little bit, right? But I mean, Willie's been not bad. I mean, he has been...
Yeah, but, I mean, he's not wrong. He's not really a grinder. He's not really the guy who's going to throw his body around that much. But anyway, we're going to get into it. Yeah, definitely, he's not wrong. More grinding required by everyone.
Yes.
Anyway, we're going to get right into the show now, and we're going to start off with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then we're going to run the Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel. And then for our third period segment, it's just us. We're going to get into some of the questions that we have about what's going on with our Leafs team right now. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right. So the good, the bad, the ugly. So the good, I have nothing good right now, but I will give an honorable mention to say he's been playing good, is Brandon Carlo, our new addition to the Leafs. He's been playing pretty good.
A little bit of a shaky start, shaky immediate start, but he is settling in, that's for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of my honorable mention good sort of thing, but really I don't have anything good right now.
Yeah, it was really hard. I had to kind of dig deep, but I thought I would give props to a welcome addition back into the fold, Calle Jarnkrok. He hasn't been like spectacular by any stretch. He has 2 points, which is fine, but he's noticeable. Berube's been putting him in different spots, so he's like the Swiss Army knife that he usually is. I think he's getting better with every game, and I have noticed him, so I think he's going to be good for us going down the stretch here. I think we've talked about, he's like, it's 20 goals that's missing from our lineup right there. And it's going to take him a while to get back into game shape, obviously, but I have noticed him, and I think that I just wanted to welcome him back.
Yeah, no, he's been good. I mean, he, like you said, he's played, Berube's put him in all different positions, basically, which is how he has been throughout his time here in Toronto. But I liked him last night versus the Sens on the line with Lorentz and Holmberg.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to say that that line had the best energy.
Yeah,
and they were really good.
And I was they had quite a few like energy shifts like that, where they actually were in the ozone more than anybody else.
I know.
And you would have thought that like that's basically why like the guys coming off the bench are supposed to feed off of that, but it wasn't happening last night.
All that work that they did, to get them in good position to do something, and nothing happened. So
but no,
which brings us to
yes, to the bad.
All
right, my bad is the special teams. I won't. The power play has just been always horrible, with the exception, I think it was in November, that when Matthews was out going to Frankfurt or wherever he went to in Germany to get his, like, they had a period of time there without Auston Matthews that their power play, they were zipping the puck around and they were getting in the ozone, no problem. But obviously the games get harder as you get later into the season, so it's not as easy. But the real issue I have is with actually the PK, the penalty kill. And right now we're 18th in the league at 80%. And
going down.
And Lane Lambert, he has to get fired up again, I think, because we've noticed him when we go to the games at Scotiabank Arena. We've noticed him before being very, I guess, demonstrative, or whatever the word is to say, that you can see him back there, like giving directions, getting the guys, I guess, motivated or telling them what they want to do. But he has to do something. I do a couple of things I'd like to see is, I know David Kampf was out last night. That was, I guess, so he put Robertson in, which I think that really hurt the penalty kill too, because
for sure.
Because I mean, although he's not the flashy guy there, but he wins draws and he's a big part of that PK. So I don't know if that was such a great move. But what I would do is put Camp back in the lineup. One of Holmberg or Robertson has to be out. Like, you basically just pick and choose the type of game, style of game. Although Robertson played well, both of them played pretty well, Holmberg and Robertson. But
the problem is we're not getting any offense from either of those guys.
Yes.
And Robertson is the guy that, like, to stay in the lineup, he's got to score.
Yeah.
He's got to get the puck in the net.
So I just think that you put Kampf in, you take Matthews off the penalty kill so that it gives him more of a break.
I thought that was the plan anyways.
I thought so
with
too,
getting
but it's not happening.
Right?
Yeah. It's not happening for some reason. He's still there. Yeah. So you either replace Matthews with either Yarncroke or Scott Lawton. Hopefully he's not injured, because he got some stick close to the eye last night. And, but I think, like, those are the couple of things I'd like changed on the PK. And with regards to the systems and how they actually play it, that's something Lane Lambert has to get back to what they were doing at the beginning of the season, because they were doing it quite well. So it's about details. That's what they're all saying.
Sure.
But that's I right now it's just not working. And that power play, like, that was just garbage. The really good teams, when you get the power play like that in the third period to get the tie game, like, they get that goal. And
that 6-on-5 is killing us right now too.
Yeah,
like, but we were money with that last year. Yeah, and now, like, they cannot. Like, it's just like, I'm personally, I'm wondering if they should even bother doing that at all, because it's a really low percentage move for them at the moment. So
yeah. All right. So what's your bad?
Well, when Craig Berube came in, there was much talk about we're going to play north-south game, and, we're going to be hard to play against, and blah, 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 blah. I'm kind of noticing that right now it's all south, no north. Way too much south. I feel like whenever I'm watching, we're in our D zone the whole game.
Yeah.
They cannot break the puck out, and they cannot sustain pressure in the offensive zone. So I don't know what the solution is.
5 on 5,
just my observation.
Yeah.
And 100%. Like, they're terrible.
Yeah.
So Yeah. So it's just like, I'm sick of the South. I want to see way more North. That's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Yeah. Because 5-on-5, I mean, it's just not good enough.
No.
And again, the beginning of the season, we were good. Like, we were really good. We were one of the top teams, 5-on-5 play. But as of January onwards, like, forget it. We're like almost at the bottom now of that on the and yeah, I don't know. It's it's a little bit confusing that way, but something is just not right. And they had their team meeting and everything too. Like I guess on just before the game versus Utah, and nobody really made a big deal about that either. Normally the media.
I didn't even hear about it. So that's how much of a deal they made about it.
Yeah.
I didn't even hear about it.
Yeah. So they had a team meeting, and because like Craig Berube has been talking all week about how these guys in the room have to basically see how much they are putting into this. Like, how much do they want to like put into this whole, like, basically all the games throughout the season, how they care, but it's like, how much do you really care? Right? You gotta really go into those details. And so they talked about something like that during this meeting. I don't know if it was players only or if he was involved too, but yeah, nobody really has said much about it. And obviously it hasn't changed much, because then they lost against Florida and they lost against the Senators. I mean,
I will say though, the Florida game, it ended up, I think it was a better game than it seems if you're just looking at the box score, Yeah. It was a playoff type game. It's a game that they could have won, as well. So, it's, I don't know. It's just, they don't seem to be able to sustain anything, and the consistency is not there. Yeah. So what I'm still hanging my hat on is like, do I want them to be peaking right now and playing their best game?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe not, but do I want to see them turning things around and it starting to move in the right direction towards maybe peaking at the right time?
Yeah.
That's kind of like, the longer that takes, then that's where it kind of gets worrisome, like, cause we're just not seeing any shift in that right now.
And there's still 16 games to go, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what Nylander said, what you said, basically.
Lots of time.
Yeah. There's still quite a bit of time, but they got to start turning it north, like you said, sooner than later.
Yes.
All right. So going on to the ugly. The ugly are these blown leads for me. And again,
I cannot disagree.
I don't know. This is like the beginning of the season. It was pretty good. We were having these like 1-goal games where we would hold the lead. All of a sudden, come January, February, I don't know. I guess it's all about the details. Again, we can't hold the lead. So and it all started back with that San Jose game at home. Basically, we had the 2-0 lead going into the third, and we lost in the shootout. Then we had the lead versus the Avs. And as much as people thought that we weren't playing well during that game, I actually watched the first couple of periods versus Colorado.
They actually played pretty well. Like,
I thought they were okay. Yeah.
They weathered like the first 10 minutes, and I think that was like the first game after the deadline too. So we had like our new guys in the lineup, and
it was the second game because we played San Jose first, and we played
San Jose was before the deadline, then Colorado was right after the deadline.
Yes, Saturday. Yeah.
So I kind of thought there was like a little bit of a feeling out process with the new guys in the lineup and everything, and it was a really high intensity onslaught. It's like really was like a playoff game also. Yeah, and they weathered that first 10 minutes. And I think they settled into the game after, and I thought that they played, pretty well. So again, that's another game that got away from them.
Yeah.
But they could have won that game.
Yeah, because if
they sustain things.
Yeah, because we had the 1-goal lead going into the third.
Yeah,
and then that was it. Then we lost 7-4, and then versus Utah, we had the 3-goal lead, and I thought that was like, I went to bed after the 3 goals. Like, that's what it was like into the second period. And then I I got up and I'm like, what the hell happened? They went to a shootout? It's like to win, like we won the game, but still you blew a 3-goal lead against Utah. I'm like, okay, this is not going well. Like we gotta somehow we have to get back to what we were doing at the beginning of the season. And
what if one of the
obviously
things
we have to work a bit harder.
What if one of the things that we were doing well was our goaltending was out of its mind, and now it's not.
Yeah.
So
that's another.
Maybe the pixie dust is kind of off of our goalies right now, and these guys are still expecting them to, save them.
Yeah. Yeah, that is another thing. And a lot of people are saying that our start of our season, like the first 3 months or so, like it was masked by good goaltending.
Yeah.
Right. And I was actually surprised that Stolarz got the start versus the Senators.
Me too.
Like to get 2 in a row. But then now, and I'm wondering how, I hope it doesn't affect him at all. But I assume Wall would be in net tomorrow versus the Flames with Calgary. But I'm hoping that it doesn't, because they're saying that they think Berube gave him the extra start because he wants to ramp him up so that he'll be used to playing in the playoffs, like multiple games in a row.
Yeah, but he also was coming off an injury, and with the break, still has not played as many games, to kind of get back into the rhythm. So maybe it's just that.
Maybe it's just that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we definitely needed better from the goalies, a little bit better anyways, but I mean our defense hasn't been great either, to tell you the truth, and our scoring hasn't been good either. We can't score goals again, right? That's the thing. But when you have a lead, 3 goals or 2 or 1 goal, you can't blow those leads when that's like you're getting those goals, so you gotta then kind of, I guess, push it down and play defense after that. And that's where the detail, I think.
Yeah, but the thing is like I feel like they're playing a lot of defense, but they're not playing it well. And the other thing is I think that they're wearing themselves out with all of this defense.
Yeah.
Like they should try to lean into their strengths a little bit more and play in the other end, which is easier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but they got to be, this is all the whole thing, how they're saying Berube is saying how like they were tired or something. He was making, it was kind of like an excuse, I guess, like because yes, the road trip and everything.
How is he already drinking the Kool-Aid?
I know.
Thought they brought him in.
That's what I thought
to not
too.
do that.
Yeah, but he did. Yeah, he did that. I think it was, I don't know if it was after the Florida game. I think it was that he said this. And yeah, I was interested in that too, because at the beginning of the season when he came in, we were all excited thinking, here's the accountability and the, little bit of toughness there and all that. But he's already, like you said, drinking the Kool-Aid, and he's already giving these guys like a little bit of a like a soft spot for them, sort of like not to feel sorry for them, because I don't think because all the teams go through this type of schedule, right? But I mean, the only thing I would say for the Leafs is their back-to-back things is, I think, over the top back-to-back games. Like, I think,
but I think the rest of the season they should have less of those now. If I don't
they have
even know
one coming. They have one coming up. Yeah. I don't know about after that, but these blown leads have to go.
But you know what could make it easier on them and make them less tired. Managing their shifts better.
Yeah.
Why in God's green earth, when the power play is like producing nothing, are they on for almost the whole 2 minutes? Yeah. And then the second unit gets like 11 seconds or something like that. Yeah.
For a while there, they were doing good. They were actually splitting it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But then they go back to the, I don't know, that Mark Savard, again, like he hasn't done quite the miraculous job, like you were saying, in the second half of the season last year for Calgary.
Yeah.
How they really turned it around. They haven't really turned it around here. So
I don't know. I think that part of the problem with having players that are this elite and having the amount of them that we have is that in the back of your mind, you know that in any moment they can do it. They can execute. They can get it done. And so you always trust that they can do it. But it's not always the case. So I think sometimes you have to really know when they don't have it.
Yeah.
And you have to rein them in. And I honestly think that too, if you want the whole team to buy into something, you have to start with your top guys. And that means, if you don't want, Robertson taking extra long shifts out there and being irresponsible that way, you've got to hold your top guys accountable that way too, and make sure that they're, sticking to shorter shifts.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and better line changes and all of that. These are things where these are not, rocket science. They don't take talent. They just take, like you said, work, like harder work and details.
Yeah.
It's attention to those details and discipline.
Yeah. And that's what it is with the blown leads. You gotta, when you get that lead, you aren't scoring as much this year. Mm-hmm. So then you gotta shut it down basically and go defense when you get that 2-goal lead. Mm-hmm. 3-goal lead we had, like, you got to shut it down, and that's where the buy-in has to come in. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, let's move on to your ugly.
Okay, well, my ugly, we've covered a lot of the areas here, so I'm not going to go into too much detail over it, but I think it's pretty ugly that our record in the last 6 games is 1-5, and that was in a shootout win.
Yeah.
Or 1-6, sorry.
Yeah.
It's pretty darn
bad.
Ugly.
Yeah, it's pretty bad or ugly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of them a combination. Yeah, I mean, I even looked at their home record. Their home record after we haven't played at home for, I don't know.
Feels like
forever. But their home record since the Four Nations, they've basically lost all their games. They lost to Carolina, they lost to the Sharks in overtime, and then they lost these last 2 versus Florida and the Senators. So of the games that we've had at home, we've lost all of them. So that's not good. That's ugly as well. So
not for the ticket buying public, it isn't.
No, that's for sure. Yeah, but no. So anyhow, we are going to switch some gears here because there is some positivity. We don't want to go. I mean, we've gone overboard maybe a little bit on this, but on the ugly part, but we do have some positivity because, yes, there are a few moments from the past couple of weeks that made our Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel. So let's roll it.
All right. So coming in at number 3, Simon Benoit, Benny, with the Superman punch versus Utah. So Benoit had just scored his first goal of the season. And the next thing you know, he's jumping up to take a swing at Utah's Michael Kesselring. I think that's the picture, the shot that basically went around the globe. It's a great picture. It's definitely something he's going to frame and put up in his place. I was like, what a great shot that was. Yeah, I know, picture.
Like how they actually to get it. Like, I mean, obviously there's lots of professional photographers there at the games, but I was just like, when it happened, I just saw him with the leap. Like, I thought to myself, what is he doing? I thought to myself, is he that much shorter than? And he's not, actually, because I looked it up before we came on the show. Like, he's 6'4", and this Kesselring guy is 6'5", right? So he's not. It's not that much of a.
He just had a lot of energy in that moment, I guess. But
yeah, and who is it that fighter guy?
I was just going to mention that was one of my favorite parts of it, is that GSP, Georges St. Pierre, fellow Quebecer, chimed in with his critique because he's a UFC fighter of how he just kind of telegraphed, so he didn't really actually get a good shot, but it was a good picture, he said. So I thought that was great. So that was a little bit of a highlight for me.
And definitely worthy of our highlight reel,
for sure.
All right, moving on to number 2. Mitch Marner actually made it on number 2. The shootout winner versus Utah. Mitch went in. I was like, my mind, I watched it a few times because I thought it was just fantastic. He went in with speed and did the pump fake, and then he put it over the pad of Utah goaltender Karl Vejmelka. And I don't know, just the way he went in with the edges on his skates too, sort of thing, right? To actually make those moves, and like with the hands, they have the magic mitts, as they say, right? Mitch with the magic mitts, and I just thankful he got the shootout winner because
no kidding,
our one game that we've won. But
overall, like, I think Mitch's shot is like, he is shooting with so much more confidence since the Four Nations. Like, I really noticed that. Like, he is just much more willing to shoot, and he's got a lot more zip on it. Just goes to show you, like, when you've got that kind of confidence clicking and you're feeling good about those things, that it's so much of any sport really is mental, right? So,
although the last couple of games, I mean, don't want to be negative too. Don't want to get into the negative. Last couple of games, he hasn't been as noticeable, but that particular goal was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so our number one on this version of the highlight reel is Max Domi. Yes, we have crapped on him quite a lot this season, but Max has finally started to play better in the last few games, and especially in the game versus the Panthers, which was, we can all agree, a real playoff atmosphere. And of course, that's where he shines. He brought his game to another level, and early in the third, he scored a nice goal to get the Leafs within a goal. So of course, we didn't win that game, but he was like really noticeable and making a lot of plays. He was on fire that night.
Yeah.
And he had that fight in front of his dad. I don't actually think, they showed Ty in the stands. I don't actually think he likes it when Max fights, frankly.
No, I don't think so either. but yeah, no, he had the fight. Unfortunately, who was it? It was Nate Schmidt is who he had the fight with, right? But
man, did he get him. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, he was like ragdolling. That was fierce.
But the thing is, like, the way I didn't see it, like, at that time, I didn't see it this way, but they said that they think, I guess because Nate Schmidt doesn't fight much, but it gave Florida more of a boost than it gave us somehow.
I kind of think that is true, because the game really seemed to turn after that. So maybe he needs to pick his spots better.
Yeah. I just find it funny.
But I love his energy. You can't, you can't take away that.
I just find it funny. Like, the crowd was like buzzing, like when Max was on fire, and he was like lifting his hands up, like after he scored, after he scored and after the fight too. But so, and you could see it on the you could feel it through the TV that there was a lot of energy.
For sure.
But then last night versus the Sens, like, Scott Laughton had the fight, and it was funny. And Jay Rosehill said on, he's a former player, he's on a podcast now too, but he's like, oh, how quiet it was there, and like, what's wrong with the crowd and all this. But then on Thursday night versus Florida, there were some reporters that were saying, why was the crowd getting all excited about that? Like, Leaf fans, that's all they want is the gritty kind of game.
I don't know.
So
it's like, you show you like, no matter what, the criticism goes around, the players, the fans, everybody. Like, you just can't win. And no matter what,
can't pay attention to it like I do. Right? That's how I notice these things. I'm like, well, what do you want? So everything, right? You want the crowd to be maybe not so excited, or do you want the crowd to like really be into it? Personally, he's my favorite player, so I'm into it. I like it when there's something. I mean, not the stage fight or anything like that. Not that kind of thing. But if it's something in the moment and something has to be done, then it gets done. And Max did it that night, and that's why he's number one on our highlight reel this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously there are a lot of questions. We've raised a few already by now, but a lot of questions surrounding this Leafs team. That started in the few days before the trade deadline. So in our third period segment, we're going to get into some of the things that we've noticed that are concerning as we get closer to the playoffs. So, we basically, for this segment, we're just going to ask a few questions. We're both going to comment on it. And first of all, I guess, because we haven't had the show since the trade deadline, do you like what they did adding Scott Laughton and Brandon Carlo? Like, that's basically what Brad Treliving did. And that's, okay, like, were there potentially other options in the 3C and defense, that we could have gotten? Like, personally, when they got Scott Laughton, I was like, okay, he's okay. He wouldn't have been my first choice, but does he fill the 3C role that we were trying to fill? Yes, he does. Once they added Brandon Carlo, I was like, yes, like that is way better. Like, first of all, both of these guys still have term, which is incredible. Brandon Carlo is like a young guy who's like, his mentor is like Zdeno Chara, and he's like big and smart, and he's like he's defensively sound, but like in a different way than Tanev is, like, he basically came to us as like a +2 on a -32 team, plus minus, right? So that tells you he plays in the important minutes. Yeah. He was playing in the important minutes.
And he seems to right now be fitting in well with Morgan Rielly.
I think so too. Although it seems like Berube is still kind of not sold on things because he's kind of moving people around and it's a little bit interchange. But am I happy overall with what they got? Like, personally, he went out to fill those 2 roles. And he got he filled it 100%. He got a right shot, strong, big, defensively minded defenseman. And he got a true third center, not a guy who can play center sometimes, but play here, play there, move around. No, he got somebody who that is his job.
Yeah.
And to me, that's good.
Yeah, and I think too, he hasn't had the greatest start, Scott Laughton.
No,
I think it's because he's from here again, right? Like,
bingo.
It's gonna.
I was just gonna say that. I think it's always harder for those guys because they come in and they want to make an impact so badly. Yeah, and that's kind of what I see. He's like overplaying. So
so
it'll calm down.
Some time.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And we got time. We got 16 games, so he'll get used to things in the system, and because he's obviously excited about being a Leaf too, right? Mm-hmm. He's playing for his hometown.
Yeah, for
team.
sure.
So I thought it was. Because now, of course, a lot of people are doing the reverse. Oh, well, they can't score. So why did Brad Treliving go out and get these defensive-minded things? But it's just like, but leading up to the deadline, what we saw was especially at that 3C, there was a hole there. He had to fill it, right?
And the whole thing is that guy doesn't need to be the scoring machine, but you put him with, like, for example, I liked that he was trying out Mitch and Willie with him. Yeah. Just to see, the chemistry and whatever. And
to give him confidence too.
100%. Yeah. And like, he's basically trying to help him find his way, by putting him with good players. And I don't think that guy needs to be the scoring machine. He needs to be the defensive minded one, and he needs to get, other depth people, in the right positions to score. Yeah.
And we already,
Max or whoever.
Yeah. And the whole idea of this team, we already have the goal scorers, the 3 of them.
100%. And those are the guys that we need to put it in the net.
Yes. And that they haven't been. And we'll get to a couple of them soon. But yeah, we got those guys as goal scorers. And then Matthew Nyes has had a great year this year. Even scoring wise. And the only guy that's kind of tailed off a little bit that I was going to put as my bad is Bobby McMahon. He needs to wake up.
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. But I actually feel, I felt last night watching Nyes too, that he's kind of in a little bit of a lull. Like, his lulls don't seem to last that long, but he needs to kind of move his game in the other direction as well.
But overall, I think Treliving did well in this deadline, and
I mean, with what was available and the cost
and what we had
to
offer,
I think that this is probably the best he was going to be able to do. And these are guys that are going to be able to stay with their team, grow with their team.
And so,
is it as good as, I mean, obviously there's always more that as a fan, you would want more. Yeah. Why couldn't we get that guy? Why couldn't we get this guy? And, but, anyways, it is what it is.
Salary cap, right?
For sure. So, and he filled the slots. Yeah. So you can't blame him, for he can't, it's not like he, went out and got like, I don't know, another filling goaltender or another like
a
depth winger or something like that. That
8th defenseman or something like that, right? Like, so anyways.
Yeah. All right. So the next topic du jour, of course is Mitch Marner and how he was asked to waive his no trade. So what do you think about this? And, do you think that it's having an effect on the team's recent play right now? Yeah. Like, do you think it's becoming a distraction?
I think it was leading up to these, like this whole week, I guess, after the trade deadline. I think just how, I guess it was Elliot Friedman that broke it to say that the Leafs had gone to him to ask him to waive his no trade, and he said no, which is his right. So, yeah, I just think that maybe again, because there's the mental side of the game, I just think that maybe these guys, it was just a reminder. They know, but it's just a reminder that this could possibly be the last time they have an opportunity to be together to get the job done.
So does that like put more pressure on them right now in a potentially negative way? Or
that's how I'm thinking.
But
for him, maybe not. Thing. But but for the rest of the team, like Matthews and Nylander and mostly those two guys, the three guys, right? Like the other, like Tavares is an older guy. He's experienced. He knows how to deal with these things better, I think. And Morgan Rielly has been here forever, right? Like those are the 5 players. But I just think those 3 players, they're like best buds sort of thing, right? And if they know none of them went to free agency, he's going to be the first one too, right? Because Willie didn't go to free agency, right? He didn't go to the market. He got signed.
Yeah, like there's so many potential storylines and narratives there, right?
And so the idea that they asked him to waive, right, for those players, like, I don't know. I just think that maybe there was a little bit this week anyways, and they just they need to get past that. Yeah. Right? Like they need to get past that. And
well, I mean, they could use it. They could use it. It could be a detriment to them mentally, or they could look at it as the other way, is that because they should know that if they go far, guess what? Their buddy's probably going to stay here.
Yeah.
And they're not going to break up the band.
Yeah.
So, you know, that should add more fuel to their fire.
Yes.
If that's, you know, what they truly want, if they want to keep the band together, so to speak, you know?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just think that maybe that was on their minds a little bit after this trade deadline, and the fact that it went out to the media, and they're all on social media, so they all know everything that way.
Yeah. But I mean, if I were Mitch, I would go to free agency too. He's the top guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, like he's got every right to do that, and it's leverage. And the thing is, what bothers me is that everyone's, you know, giving him the gears on this, but like, what about Stamkos? I mean, it was the opposite, because he took us to like the very last second, and then he's like, no, I want to stay in Tampa.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like, it could be the same thing with him. Is that if bottom line, sometimes, you know, you've got all these people talking at you, your family, your agent, your notorious agent who always makes his clients do this anyways, which everyone should know.
Yeah.
And so push comes to shove, in that moment is when you know where you want to be.
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to want to stay here in the end. But, you know, truth is, and I think it's telling that they didn't sign him, is that, you know, obviously Berube wanted a year with these guys to see if he can do something with them.
Yeah.
And that still remains to be seen if he can. It's possible that he's going to be able to pull that off. But if not, you know, they may be ready to move on from him because it hasn't worked for this long. So,
and then there's Brendan Shanahan, who's the controller of everything basically on this. So, and he might be gone too.
Oh yeah.
Because
if it doesn't work, it's like, this is like the last blast, and you know,
he should be included in those with those 3. It should make Brendan Shanahan the 4 in there, right? Because he's kept them all together. He's the one that called them, saying like just before Kyle Dubas was let go or whatever, like he called all the players and said that like they're not going anywhere, right? From that couple of seasons ago, before Dubas came out into that press conference and said whatever he said, and then he was gone. So
yeah. But I think, you know, for the good of the team and the good of Leafs Nation and the good of our psyches as collective players, fans, everything that is part of the Leafs, in the universe. We gotta turn the page on it and just, that's so down the road, and we got things to take care of before then. And so I think
that's the
as
other
a
thing
collective, we need to switch gears on this and not focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully the team will too. All right. Sooner than later. And let's get on to this one about Auston Matthews. Another topic that's more recent, I guess.
Yeah, I think you know how I feel about this one.
Yeah. So we know he's playing hurt. Yeah, from the last show. We know he's playing hurt.
Better, though. He looked a little better last night to me against Ottawa, personally.
Right. And that's not going to change, basically. We know he's playing hurt and I mean, if the Leafs knew that they could change this by resting him,
they probably would.
They would have done that by now. But do you think the Leafs can win in the playoffs with Matthews not at 100%?
I have to say a big fat no to that.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
But you know what?
But
as hockey players, like we saw, like Benny in the box, dislocated thumb, he put it in. Like that's basically hockey in a nutshell right there. So whatever he needs to do when it comes down to it, you have to push yourself through. And maybe now is not the time for him to be pushing it. So fine. But when it comes down to it, and once we're in the playoffs, you have to somehow put that down, deep down, and move through and get through it.
And it was interesting. I was listening on Sportsnet. I was listening on another podcast. It was JD Dunkus, and he had that Luke Grajcik, or I don't know what Grasdick. Okay. He had him on, and he was talking about injuries. And
I really like Luke, actually.
You like him? Yeah. I don't know. On TV, I didn't like him, but I liked him on the radio. It's kind of funny when
he had like a podcast too. He's one of the first people that had Benny on, and that's how that whole milk thing started.
Oh yeah. I think I remember that. Yeah. Well, anyways, he was saying about how when he had some torn labrum in the shoulder area or something, and it was right at the beginning of the season, and they said to him like he could play with it, like we could manage it throughout the season, like you could do surgery now, or you just manage it, like it's not going to get any worse, not going to get any better. But he decided to go that route. But he said like the amount of like that for a player like Auston Matthews, let's just say it's something similar situation like that where he has to manage it. He goes, you don't know how exhausting it is.
Oh, I 100% know that. Unfortunately, as a 50-year-old woman in pain.
Yeah, but nobody.
I'm not even playing, but
but nobody has actually presented it that way except for him on the radio. The way I understood him to say, and then it thought of this guy and how and that was like back in the 90s and late 80s, obviously, where they didn't have all this great health care like options like for therapy and stuff like that. But in his book, in Wendell Clark's book, he wrote how every single day he had to be right on time with the structure of getting his body ready for the game that night. And he's like, and I wanted to play, and that's what I did. So, but it's even he acknowledged it was exhausting, but I got through it because of his teammates and he wanted to play. And that's what Auston Matthews has to do too. I don't know, like I'm thinking if it's the same situation, like that part of it's exhausting. So in a way then, why don't you like give him a little bit of a break, whether it be like on a back-to-back game if you can.
Yeah, like more maintenance days or something.
Reduce his minutes, right? Don't put him on the PK. Right. And
there's more that they could be doing to manage the situation.
Yeah. And just, but I mean, cause they need him. For the question that we had, can they win in the playoffs with him not at 100%? It is no, but they can help the situation, I think, a little bit more by doing these little things to maybe help him with the mental part of it. Because he wants to be Auston Matthews. He wants to score. Right, he's 69 goals or 50 goals, whatever. He knows how important that is to the team, and then now he's the captain. Right, the first year.
I feel bad for him for that too. This is not the way he envisioned it going. I'm sure.
No, and so that part of it, that mental part of it, I think they can help him a little bit more.
Because like you said, like it is so exhausting, and that's takes away also for him being able to give more of himself to that role too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it affects everything.
Yeah. So if there's little ways that they can help him that way, I think come game time, it will help at least get a few percentage points up to get him to at least I don't know, like a little bit better anyways. Obviously there's something wrong there, and if they could get him even a few percentage points better, that's better for the team in the end.
Oh, for sure.
Better for results. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we had another question, but I don't know. Unless you have a quick answer for this one. Nearly my last question was, what the heck is going on, and why are the Leafs struggling so much right now?
Yeah.
I don't think we want to spend too much time on this, but
one thing that gave a little bit of light to me this morning, actually, somebody put it on X that Florida during their, I don't know if it was the last season or if I think it was the season before, where they were basically almost 500 team in March. Like they weren't playing well at all, but then they went on a run. Right in that, and they got to the Cup final and they lost to Vegas, right? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So that kind of brought me a little bit back down to a little bit of reality.
Well,
thinking, I mean, there's 16 games.
Yeah.
And, but they got to turn around this week. Our next show.
Sure. Yeah. We want to see something going in the other opposite direction. But I mean, that's a good point, because really, do we want to be working out these kinks during the playoffs? No. So rather than be working it out right now. And, like that's the thing. That's what 100% like what I was saying before. I don't mind that they're not peaking now. So,
yeah.
All right. So let's take a look at what's coming up for the Leafs. It's just basically hockey all the time. Yeah. And it's kind of bouncing here and there right now for them as far as home and away. So,
yeah. So first of all, they're going to start Monday night at home versus Calgary, our friend Nazem Kadri. And maybe that's what messed us up, actually. It's Amazon. I think they're going to be on Amazon Prime tomorrow night. Whereas that San Jose game wasn't. So, and that was a Monday night. So, because we have a really,
we have a good record on Amazon Prime night.
I'm stretching things here, but I mean, we have a good record, so hopefully that'll help us tomorrow night versus Calgary, and then it's a rematch versus Colorado at home at Scotiabank Arena on Wednesday night. So, yeah.
And then, as I mentioned before, the Leafs head out on the road again for a couple of games. Thursday night, they go to Madison Square Garden to face the Rangers. And as an aside, we'll be at the Leafs watch party at Bottom Line in Toronto, downtown, to take in this game. So if you have plans to be joining the fun there, please do say hello. Former Leaf Shane Corson will also be there. And then Saturday, they're in Nashville. Hopefully that's a game that we could win.
Hopefully.
And then they come back home for the following Tuesday to play the Flyers.
Yeah.
So,
and that's another
Scott
one.
Lawton will play his old team for the first time.
Yeah. So, and that's another one but we should win.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be back next week with an episode of Leafs Quick Hits, covering all the games and the Leafs news. Cross our fingers that they start to turn the ship around and start getting some wins, because right now, don't look now, but they sit third, I guess, in the Atlantic, tied with Tampa with 81 points, and the Senators are 4 points behind us. So, yeah, it's time for the Leafs to wake up. And a quick reminder to hit that follow button wherever you are listening to our show. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And you can also find us on the Believe Network at Believe.com. It's BLEAV.com. And yeah, if you can, we'd love to hear from you. So, love our Facebook followers. They're always commenting on our posts and that. So that's great. So we'd like to, but if you can, write a comment or review on Apple, Spotify, or just a rating. It's easy. You just hit that 5 stars. Right? Well, except 4 stars, I guess, right? But yeah, if you can, leave us a rating.
Feedback is important, really. So
yeah, feedback from our listeners is important, and we thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. So you can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs, presented by Bet Online. Till next time, go Leafs, go.